What we're going to do, I will do some teaching now, but there'll be quite a few questions that I'm going to ask you to answer. Some of them I'll ask you to tell me what you've written down, but it's not for my benefit really, it's for your benefit. So, but then we'll break, and then this afternoon we're going to do two different things. The first half will be, you could say, like an object lesson where you'll split into groups and we have to manufacture something, we have to make something. So that'll be fun, because you don't know what you're going to make yet, and you don't know what you're going to make it with. So if I told you spaghetti, you may be like, thinking this is going to be fun. But I've done this once before, and it is quite amusing when you get into it and you see different people's personalities and characters and some of the arguments that go on. It's quite amusing. But anyway, so we'll do that after lunch, and then a little bit of a talk off the back of that. So, like I said, if you got pens, papers, we will start now. The subject that I was going to look at, even though I'm not going to be able to complete it all, is the 21 Laws of Leadership. It's a John Maxwell teaching. Some of it's going to be slightly adapted by me, but I'll take the essence of what he says and then I'll make it my own in that way. I'm not going to be able to do all 21 because of time. You'll be lucky if I get to probably 7 or 8, but I'll do my best. So if we're gonna break, would you say around 1 o'clock, Michael? Would that be okay?
That's fine, yeah.
Would that be okay? So I'll try and work it so we finish around then. But if you get bored or you're gonna fall asleep, just stand up and have a walk around the room. Don't worry about me. I mean, I won't be upset. I'd rather you know, if sometimes your blood sugar level drops slightly and you get a bit sleepy, it's not a problem. Just stand up and have a walk around. I'm not going to throw anything at you, but I understand that's what people can be like sometimes. It's the same for me. So just, don't let yourself fall asleep or switch off. Just stand up and have a walk or something so you can stay focused on what I'm saying. Anyway, leadership, that's why we're here. There are several laws that I'm going to go through, which in some respects they all stand alone. So they are different principles regarding leadership, and if we apply them, they're easy to understand, they're not difficult. This is not rocket science at all, but it takes a little bit of understanding and a lot of application as a leader. Okay? They all stand alone, but they all complement each other as well. Now, as you know, every law that exists in the universe, for example, the law of gravity, there's always consequences to the law. You jump out the window, you are going to hurt yourself if you don't have something to land on. Yeah, so there's always a consequence to a law, but if we apply them correctly, when it comes to leadership, I will guarantee that people will follow and you will be able to lead others. The flip side is, if you don't apply them, you won't improve and the people won't follow. So it's in our own best interest, if we want to grow, to listen, to apply them, and then to put them into practice. Now, the first one, the first law you may have heard of before, I think I did mention it last time I was here, is the law of the lid, is what John will speak about. Now, the law of the lid is very simple, but this is, what it is, it says that your leadership ability will determine your personal level of effectiveness. In other words, how well you lead will determine how well you're going to succeed. Yeah, so if you want to succeed, you've got to lead well. If you don't lead well, you won't succeed as a leader. Now, you may have heard the phrase before, one that John Maxwell uses all the time, but it is true. Everything rises and falls on leadership. Now, I can remember saying that to a church that I was part of down in Bristol, and I was nearly shot by the pastor when I made that statement. Everything rises and falls on leadership. And the reason why he didn't like me saying that was because it now meant he had to become accountable for what he said and did. And he didn't like that. Because he liked to take the glory when everything went well, but he liked to blame everybody else when things didn't go well. And that's what we often do as people. You know, when things, like when a football team goes well, like with Man United, pick on Man United. When Man United are playing well, the new manager, Solskjaer, He's the Pope. He's wonderful. When Man United are playing bad, it's Mourinho's fault. Nobody will take responsibility when things go bad, but they all want to take the glory when everything goes good. And unfortunately, that is exactly the same in church. Not every church is like this, not every leader is like this, not every pastor is like this, but there are quite a lot of people out there who like to take the glory when things go well, and when things don't go so well, it's the wife's fault. Or it's the elder's fault, or it's somebody else's fault. So everything rises and falls on leadership. In other words, how well you lead will determine how well you succeed, or how well you lead will determine how well the people follow. Yeah, I remember Ray McCauley, when we was in South Africa, said that as is the tradition in South Africa, that and in a lot of African countries, I think, they always put big advertising billboards on the side of the road with your picture on. You know, like your picture or you standing there with your wife to advertise the church or advertise a meeting. He used to get a lot of criticism in the local paper, but yet there'd be a lot of billboards with his face on, and his wife's face, Ray and Lindy at the time, saying how good he was. And I can remember him saying in a church service, saying that how God had said to him, don't get puffed up when people speak highly of you, but equally, don't let it affect you when people criticise you. In other words, don't be affected by whether anyone says something good about you or people say bad about you. Don't let anything like that have a bearing on your leadership. Because there are times when, because we're emotional beings, we all like to be appreciated.
That's right.
We all like to be encouraged. We all like to be told that we're doing well. But you know, sometimes, we've got to be honest, we don't do well, do we?
No.
Okay, we've got to be honest, you know, we don't. For whatever reason, you know, we were just off our game on a particular day, that's just life. But we cannot let that type of thing have an effect on us. You know? Jesus hasn't fallen off his throne, he hasn't banged his head on the radiator, everything is fine. If we have a bad day, we have a bad day. If we have a good day, we have a good day. Try as best we can to be unemotional about it. Now, the law of the lid. This has a multiplying effect in a positive manner, but also on a negative manner. Now, your leadership ability is your lead, which will determine your level of success. Okay? So, if you've heard this before, then it's good repetition because we may learn something new. Now, if my hand is your level of leadership, now if you think of 0 to 10, 0 being your rubbish, 10 being your Jesus, if somewhere between 0 and 10 will be each of our levels of effectiveness as a leader. Whether it be level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, it just depends on what that is for each of us. Now, just imagine that you're a level 5, just for ease of argument. If you're a level 5 leader in your ability, nobody will be better than you if they follow you. If you're a 5, everybody who follows you will be a 4 or below. You will never attract people to your organisational church who are a better leader than you, because people don't want to follow a leader who is less of a leader than them. We always like to follow people who are better leaders than we are. I always used to think that was weird about me when I was younger, because there's certain people I think, I ain't following him, he ain't got a clue what he's doing. Now that wasn't because I was being rude, I didn't understand why I would think that, but it was basically because I wanted to follow someone who was a better leader than me. Whatever that was, if I was a 2, that could be a 3 or a 4. But whatever our level of leadership is, the higher the leadership number, the greater our ability. So, if we were level 5 as a leader, and we've considered all things that we come out as a number 5, we cannot be any more successful as a leader than that level 5. So if we want to grow our organisation, if we want to grow our church, we have to grow our leadership from a 5 to a 6, or to a 7, or to an 8. Yeah? In other words, that lid that is on our life holds down our potential. Yeah? So if we're at work in a secular job and we are struggling to get a promotion and we are struggling to lead people better, it may be the problem isn't other people. The problem is that we need to improve our ability as a leader. So if we're level 3, now we need to think, you know what, I'm not going to blame everybody else. I need to do things better. I need to improve me from a 3 to a 4, or to a 5, or to a 6. Because the organisation or the church that you're a part of will never go beyond you. So if you are that 5, you will only have an organisation that stays at the 5. Now I've been communicating with the pastor. Well, he's the associate pastor of the church. He's not the senior leader pastor, whatever that person's called. And he whinges about what's happened in the church and what's going on in the church, and why certain things don't go on, and he moans about the pastor's wife and all this type of thing. What's he really complaining about? That leader, who is the number 1, that leader's ability is restricting the church. He's finding a frustration, not because that person is evil, or purely because his level of leadership could be a higher number than the person who's actually in charge. Therefore, he finds it a frustration. Does that make sense? That is why you go to a lot of churches around the country and there'll be people there. Well, let me give you this example. I met a man some years ago who was in his 70s. He was a businessman and he singled out, have you heard of Operation Mobilisation? Any of you? I went. Have you heard of the Mercy ships and the Lagos ship? They're all part of Operation Mobilisation, where they send these ships around the world. He lives in Dudley. He single-handedly finances OM. That's how wealthy that man is. He's only an accountant. But he's an accountant and he donates money to OM, millions every year, to finance that or those ships. He said, now he's a businessman, he's a strong character, he's a very wealthy individual. I sat in his office 4 or 5 years ago, sat across the desk from him, and he sat there as a man in his 70s crying. He says, I've been in church all my life, and I've never been pastored or led by anybody. And I was like, huh? How does that work then? If you've been in church, well, hasn't there ever been a pastor in the church before? My understanding was enlightened. What he's saying was, he was a strong leader. If you could say, he was a number 8 or 9 leader. The pastor was a 5 or a 6. The pastor didn't know what to do with him. And you'll find in many churches around the country, whatever level the leaders are, you don't attract generally people who are 8s and 9s. Because so that businessman was frustrated and was never pastored by the pastor because the pastor didn't know what to do with him, because he was a stronger leader than he was. Now, instead of the pastor not knowing what to do with him, what that pastor should have done was develop his leadership ability. But we don't do that. There would be hundreds more businessmen and women in church if leaders and pastors develop their ability, so that when because generally an entrepreneur, a businessman or woman, they're not weak people, they're strong characters, strong leaders, otherwise they wouldn't be in business. So when they come into church and they see the organisation, they're useless, they leave. Now we pray that God provides for us. What a massive difference it would be if there were 2 millionaires in this church, tithing. Change everything, wouldn't it? Yeah. Change the face of this place overnight. Now, everything rises and falls on a leader. We will never, I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but we will never attract those people who are stronger leaders than we are if we keep our leadership ability low. If we want more impact, if we want to be more successful, we have to grow our ability as a leader. Yeah? Sometimes our effectiveness in prayer is zero. Because we want people to come to church, we want business people to come, we want to have this effect with all these people, nobody will come. Why? Because our ability as a leader is down here. And we need to improve our ability, learn some things, grow as who we are, and then you'll be amazed those people who start to follow you. Yeah? You look shell-shocked. A person's impact is only a fraction of what it could be with good leadership. The higher you want to climb, the more we need leadership. The greater impact we want to make, the greater our influence needs to be. Now, everybody here, bar the pastor, is from this church. Is that correct? We are all, yeah, okay. If we want this church to grow, and if we want to have more of an impact, dare I say, sometimes, should I say this in church? Because I get shocked to say this. We don't need to pray as much.
Say it.
We pray and we pray and we pray. And I love African churches because, you know, I've been asked to do some leadership training in Birmingham for a Redeemed church. What time is the training? 10 o'clock at night till 1 p.m. in the morning. My God, why are you doing training at 10 o'clock at night till 1 o'clock in the morning? Because they're Nigerian. We think spirituality starts at 10 o'clock at night. I had thought they meant 10 o'clock in the morning, 10 till 1. This is 10 p.m. till 1 a.m. But we pray, we do things like that, and it's good to pray, it's good to have all-night prayer meetings, it's good to fast, it's good to do all these things, they're all good disciplines. But you know what, that will never replace us learning to develop our gifting and our ability as a leader.
That's right.
That's why I said, when people leave school, they never read a book again. You know, if we want to learn, we've got to be reading books all the time. I've got by my lounge door a pile of books, which is probably about that high, isn't it? Yeah? And then next to it, there's a pile of stuff on the floor, then another pile. Not because the house is small, but it's just I've got stuff all like, then in the kitchen I've got stuff, on the dining room table I've got stuff. I've got books and papers and notes everywhere. I actually thought the other day, I thought, God, this looks a white mess. But there's stuff everywhere. Everywhere you go. Then I got a little study that's got piles and piles of stuff. Just because if you want to grow, if you want to be more effective, you've got to learn as a leader. Which means we've got to read books. Yeah? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Smart and talented people will only go so far because of their limitations as a leader. You know, your pastor Michael knows his gentleman David Aloki, a Nigerian guy, pastor from Warsaw. He said this the other day in his church service. He has a PhD, he's a doctor of engineering. There's a lot of his church who have PhDs and doctorates. He turned around to them and says, you know, all that is nothing. All that PhD stuff means absolutely nothing. We think we're going to succeed because we've got a PhD. Don't mean anything. We think we're going to succeed because we have a degree. Don't mean anything.
Yeah, it's true.
You know, there's millions of people who've come through Sheffield Hallam University and they work in McDonald's.
It's true.
So just because we've got a degree, now I'm not saying we should have a degree. My daughter will be thinking of where to go to university soon. I don't want her to work in McDonald's.
No.
Well, she can part-time now. She may bring home all the burgers out in the evening, but that's separate. I wanted to improve herself. I wanted to get a degree. I'm not saying that. But if we want to be effective as leaders, we need to develop our ability as a leader. If you think of it, like I said, that lid in our life, that's the limit. We can't go any higher than that lid. It's a restriction on us as individuals. It's a restriction on the church. It's a restriction on the organisations we live in. So, not to point the finger, not to criticise all those people who are not here. Some are valid reasons, of course, but those people who just couldn't be bothered to come and then made a reason for not coming, they are going to struggle in life. I know that sounds harsh, but it's not meant to. Because if we want to improve, we've got to develop our leadership ability, which means we've got to be willing to invest. And if you've ever thought about investing in a second house or invested in stocks and shares, there's always a risk involved. Why? Because we don't know fully what the return on that investment will be. You know, if I buy shares in Npower, will I get a return on them? I don't quite know. There might be a downturn on the economy. I'm not quite sure. But I'll guarantee that if we are willing to invest in our own leadership ability, that return on investment will be a greater success for our life. And it takes time. Yeah, it takes time. Our problem as people, we have a short-term mindset. So we only want to think about today and tomorrow and next week. And that stops us from investing in ourselves and growing. We need to be thinking about the long term. Think about today, on the 23rd of Feb, we need to be thinking about 23rd of Feb, 2020, 2021. Where do I want to be in 2022? And start to make that investment today so that I can get a return 2 or 3 years from now. In a better life, in a better person. Yes? So, the phrase goes, and this can be taken the wrong way, if you want to change the direction of an organisation, you change the leader. That doesn't mean you sack the pastor. I'm not saying that. Sorry, Michael, you're gone. Good boy. No, I'm not saying that. But if the organisation wants to change and improve and grow, the pastor changes and improves and grows. The leaders change, improve and grow. The elders change, improve and grow. Any department leaders will have to change, improve and grow. Yeah? We can't just point the finger at one person, like in this context, and say, well, it's all down to the pastor. It's up to him. If he don't grow, then it's his fault. It's his problem. He's the reason. He's the cork in the bottle. It's his fault. No. We've all got to take a collective responsibility. Yeah? The pastor is a pastor, of course, but he's just a link in the chain. And we all know that we are only as strong as the weakest link in the chain. So the chain consists of many links, many leaders. So if we want the chain to be strong, all the leaders need to be strong. All the leaders need to grow. Yes? So, this is my question for you. I mentioned about from 0 to 10. There's no right or wrong answer, so this is just for you to think. From 0 being not very good, to 10 to being outstanding, where would you rate yourself in your leadership ability? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Where would you put yourself? It's not a competition, so it's like, well, if Michael says he's an 8, then I must be maybe a C. No, it's not that. Where do you consider yourself to be? You may consider yourself to be a 9. I'm not going to, there's no right or wrong answer, I'm not going to tell you off. Where do you think?
It's difficult for me to, gauge myself, because as a leader, the people that you lead are the ones that gauge, because I haven't gauged myself, I haven't given myself a number. So
But you need to.
It will be difficult for me, yeah.
But you need to. Do you know why? Because we need to evaluate where we think we are. Because you ask your team, say, they may think you're an 8, but you think you're a 1. So in other words, they think you're better than what, but on the other side, they may think you're rubbish, and they'll give you a 1, and yet you think you're a 9. I am the best on the planet. So we need to try to identify where we think we're at. Because if we can't identify a starting point, how do we grow from nowhere? We have to have a starting point.
That's right.
Even if it's wrong, we need to put something there. Well, I think I'm a 2. A year from now, you may look back and think, well, you know what, I said I was a 2 back then. Actually, I got that one, I was really a 6. But I wasn't aware of my ability. So you need to, and that's probably not the answer you want, but you need to look at yourself and gauge yourself.
That's right.
I remember asking a group of pastors a couple of years ago, in a Thursday evening leadership group that I do about how aware they were of themselves. Everybody there said there was a 2, 3. Then this one pastor, bless him, sits there. Well, actually, he went first, and that's what was funny, because I asked everybody. He sat there, I'm a 9. Then asked everybody else, and they're 2s and 3s, and he could see his face, and we really had. Because he thought he was the best, and yet he got a church of 4 people, 5 people. No, actually, he's probably 6, because 4 of them were his children. So in other words, he got this tiny little church, and yet he thought he was a 9. Wow. We can be deceived sometimes, but it's good to have a point. So let me. I will pick on a couple of people. Okay, I don't care what the answer is. So it's not a case. Well, I'm going to be a 3 because she's a 4, and I want to be better than him, and he's a 6. So I'm going to be a 7. It's not that. Just where do you think you are?
On 4. 6.
6.
I'm on 4.
4.
Yes.
Go on, Michael.
I think what jumped out to my mind was 6.
6.
Yeah.
Jenny.
5.
I don't know your name, sir.
Miles.
Miles. What would you?
Probably 2.
2. Do you know what I think about myself? I'll probably put myself at about a 3.5.
Yeah. Yes. If you can put it.
But it's not. It's not. I don't care if you use a 6. It's not a competition at all. I'm probably harder on myself than other people would be, but I would say myself as about 3.5. Okay, so if that's what we think we are, what number do you think you could achieve if you grew? What could you grow to? So use a 6. What, with some investment in yourself, where do you think you could go?
8.
8. Miles, where could you go?
Oh, probably 4.
4? Yeah, I have to pick on somebody. Go on. Where do you think you are?
I think I am on 3.
3.
Yes.
So with some application and effort and time and investment,
Yeah.
where do you think you could go?
I'll be on 5 then.
Okay. I consider myself to be a 3.5, and I think I could get to an 8. Where do you think you are? Well, apart from me sat in a chair in the room, but I don't mean that. You're 3. Where do you think you could get to? To a 4, to a 5. Okay. So let me ask the all-important question. What are you going to do then to go from a 6 to an 8, a 3 to a 5, a 3.5 to an 8? If that's where you think you are, and that's where you think you could go to, what are you going to do to get there? We're not going to just wake up and watch telly and just, there we go, whatever magic wand, I'm never an 8. What are we going to do? Have you any idea? That's the first question. Go on then, you said yes. Go on then. Well, to go from a 6 to an 8.
Invest.
How?
By focusing on things which are making me want to be where I should be.
What like?
Investing in time to study what I need to study.
Okay.
Then
Okay.
putting this, switching it off 2 hours.
That's what, I tell you, that's what everybody says.
Yeah.
Everybody says the same thing. Turn it off.
It's a couple of hours.
Yeah, that's true.
Those things which we making us not to progress. Television, phones, friends on the phone. Investing time.
Your phone steals
A lot of time.
so much time from us.
That's
You know, you look at it for 2 seconds and 10 minutes later you're still
it's one to
fiddling.
see.
Fiddle, fiddle, fiddle. And we all do it, so I'm no different, we all do it. You know, you just pick it up, you bing, and you think, what was that then? And you think, oh, okay, then you look at the football score and the cricket score, then you look on Facebook, and then you, oh, there's so, you waste so much time.
Can I add as well?
Yeah, please do.
I think spending time with people of like mind as well. Because if you are
We'll come to
spending,
that one in a minute. No, that's fine, that's fine. You say, carry on,
yeah,
carry on.
if you're spending time with people who are not growing, you can't expect to grow.
Yes.
Those that will help you to find your flame. Those that will help you
Found
find
the
your
flag,
flame.
sorry. Yes. The company we keep is very important. You know, when I've been with some of the John Maxwell people, they've, without exception, have said, when you start on a journey to improve yourself and to grow as a leader and to grow as a person, if you can look ahead 5 years down the line and look back on where you started, the friends you had 5 years ago are not the same. You lose all of those friends.
That's right.
And you gain a new circle of friends.
Oh, yeah.
Now, some people don't want that.
No.
They want to keep the same friends
Yeah.
and stay with those people. But if you want to grow,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know if you heard of a guy called Robert Sladen. Yeah. Now, I'm hopefully going to see him when I'm in Orlando. But he was the principal of Kensington Temple's Bible College. And he's a historian. He's done a lot of history about revivals in the UK and around the world. But he said he was having a bit of a pity party with God one day about certain things that were going on. And God said to him, how many people are in the earth? And he's like, I don't know, 7 billion people? And he's like, and you're whinging over 20 people who don't like you anymore because you've changed. How about the 6,999,900,900? In other words, how about all the other people that are on the earth? And those handful of people could be the people who are holding you back from growing. Now, you know, only we can decide who those people are, but I would probably say, in a lot of ways, it's natural wastage. Those people you just don't really. I've got friends, pastors, Jenny will probably think of the person I'm thinking of. I've known this guy for probably 15 years now, a very, very good friend. He was very excited when I was part of the John Maxwell thing. In fact, he was keen to be part of it as well and work together. And I never, he don't speak to me anymore. Hardly have any contact with him. Because there's a price to pay to go from a 6 to an 8. And for him, it was like, that means I've got to put some effort in now and change. I will guarantee 10 years from now, I'll go and look back at him and he'll still be doing the same thing, saying the same things, complaining about his company, complaining about the people he works with, complaining about everything. He'll still have the same issues because he's never put the investment in to grow. So that's what we've got to do this. If you remember going back to last year, I spoke about being intentional for growth. If you remember, intentional about what we do. You know, we have to keep growth intentional in our mind. So that will mean we intentionally turn the phone off, and we intentionally turn the TV off. You know, and sometimes, you know, I'm a sports, but I love watching sports. I was watching the cricket last night, England losing again. And I was, you know, and then the Albion are playing Sheffield. Actually, I was at West Brom. They're playing Sheffield today. When we finish, they will be finished on time because the Albion are playing on telly. I love that time. I would sit and spend hours watching the football, and then England are playing Wales at rugby. I'd watch that one as well, and I'd sit and I'd watch football game, cricket game, rugby game, then the athletics, and then the skiing. I mean, all that. I'd spend all day watching him, but it ain't no good. Because it's no different to being on your mobile phone. Really. It steals your time. Anyway, the second one, the second law, we don't law of the lid, law of the process. Now, listen to the phrase. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Think about what I've just said. It takes 10 years to be an overnight success. Think of the irony in what I've just said. It takes 10. We often see people and think, where have they been? They're an overnight success, an overnight sensation as a pop star. They're not an overnight anything. They've been doing what they've been doing. They've been growing and growing for years and years and years. We suddenly see someone on TV, some Christian ministers on TV. Pick names that are on the Christian channels. I don't know, Creflo Dollar, Joel Osteen, Joyce Meyer, all these people who are on the TV, and we think overnight success. No such thing as an overnight success, because before they came into the limelight, they'd been going through the process of growth and change and growth and change for years and years and years. They were going through it before they became what they are now. But we don't always see that. We just see who they are today and think, well, they just woke up and they were like that. They all started where we are today. It's through a process. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. If you understand what I mean. Leadership develops daily, not in a day. In other words, you can't just read a book today and expect to be John Maxwell tomorrow. Yeah? You go to work, you work in a bank?
Yeah.
So you go to work in a bank today, you're an apprenticeship, you're an apprentice. Did they do apprentices in banks?
They do, yeah.
So you're an apprentice in a bank, you're 17 or 18. And after a week you think, I should be the chairman here. You got no chance. You got no chance. You got no chance. Why? Because to get from where you are there to being the chairman of the bank doesn't happen in a day.
No.
It's a long process to get there. Yeah? That is why, what does it say in the Bible about leadership and elders? Those who are mature, in other words, those who've been around for quite a while, those who've learned some things, those who are not new in the faith. Why? Because there's a process people go through before you're given that responsibility and that authority. So as a leader, it's a process that we have to go through. If we continually invest in our leadership development, the result will always be growth. Always. You can't stop growth happening if we are willing to invest in who we are. So every person here, you've taken the time and the effort to be here out of your week. You're hearing some things. You're being challenged in some ways. It's going to reap good in your life.
Amen.
Because you've put yourself in that, intentionally, you've put yourself in that place to learn. So there will be a reward. Now you hear some people say, the argument or the discussion people often, are leaders born? Well, of course leaders are born.
Yeah.
You were born, weren't you? Or were you born at 35? Of course we were born, we were all born. Yeah, so I remember people discussing this. Are you a born leader?
Yeah.
Of course I'm a born leader. I was born, wasn't I? My mum gave birth to me on the 1st of Feb, 1969. Of course I was born. But that's not what they really mean, I don't think, when they ask that question. What they're really asking is, are some people naturally gifted as a leader?
Yeah.
And are some people clueless, but they have to learn to be a leader?
Yeah.
That's what they're really asking.
Yes, right.
And I think the answer to that is yes to both. Some people are born more with a leadership gift than somebody else, just like some people are born naturally able to sing, naturally able to sew, naturally able to dance, and other people can't dance at all. It's just a natural gifting. But on the other side, it doesn't matter where you are, we can grow to become a better leader.
That's right.
So when people say I'm not a natural leader, that may be you're not gifted, born with that ability to just easily lead. But that doesn't mean you're not a leader. And that sometimes is a mistake we have in church. Because they're good people who should be part of leading, think they're not leaders when they are. They may have to learn some things and learn to develop and learn to grow, but they can. Did you learn to drive?
Yes.
Of course you learned to drive. You weren't born sat behind a wheel, were you?
No.
No, you sat there and you took the wheel and you learned how to work your clutch, and you learned how to avoid knocking the old lady on the zebra crossing, and you learned not to go through a red light and to stop at a red light, but to go up. You learned all those things, so you can learn as a leader.
That's right.
It may take some people slightly longer, and some people pick it up quicker, but that's irrelevant. It's a process that we go through, and we can all lead, and we all have that ability in us now, providing we put ourselves in a place to continually grow. Now, as I say, leadership is not a one book experience, if you understand what I mean. We read one book and think, that's it then, that's me done. I know everything then. I'm there, I've arrived. Hey, God bless me. No. We think we go to, how many of us have ever been to, Christian conferences, things like that? We think that when we go to a conference, we're going to learn everything we need to know. That's just a one-off event. And yet we read one book and we think we know everything. Yeah? It's a continual reading, consistent, going through the process of growing. When you go to school, you have a curriculum. And putting aside that the government changes the curriculum every other week, but you have a curriculum in school. You start at nursery, reception, then you go through years 1 to 6, then you go through years 7 to 11, then you go through A levels 12, 13, and then some go on to do a degree, then maybe there's a process those people are going through to gain information and to gain experience. A brain surgeon, you generally don't do a brain surgery as a year 1 medical student, because you don't know enough. So you go through the process of learning with experience at some point until you eventually become qualified to do what you need to do. It was a process they went through. We as leaders have got to stay on the process, because the secret is in the process. The secret is in keeping going and keeping learning. And yes, we will have good days, and yes, we will have bad days. Some days we think we know everything, other days we realise we know nothing. But we have got to stay on the process. Now, how many people here have ever done a barbecue and you've ever had meat that's been marinated? Yeah? It's been soaked in monkey gland sauce. Do you have that in Zambia? No, that's a South African thing. Monkey gland sauce, it sounds disgusting, doesn't it? It just really is a South African barbecue, that's what it really is. But when we first saw beef in monkey gland sauce, we were like, you are serious? They've killed some gibbon or something, or some baboon. It's just barbecue sauce. But you've got meat, and they generally put meat in a sauce and leave it to soak overnight. Then the following day, when you cook it, it tastes like it's been marinated in the sauce. Yeah? That's what we need to be. We need to be soaked in leadership all the time, because then you'll eventually become that leader. It will permeate your mind, your heart, your soul, the way you talk, the way you think, who you want to relate with, who you don't want to relate with. I really don't want to, it really frustrates me when I'm talking to if I can say a bunch of normal people. That's not meant to sound horrible. Because the conversation you have with a normal person who's not interested in leadership and a person who is interested in leadership, the poles apart. Absolutely poles apart. And I don't want to have that conversation with them. To me, it's just a waste of time. I want to be with like-minded people. So we need a marinated leader who is soaked in leadership all the time. We need events that we go to that will inspire us, encourage us, motivate us, challenge us. But the problem with an event is when it finishes, it's finished. A process will continue. So a process will encourage development. It will encourage us, but it will also mature us. It helps our behaviour, and its effect is longer lasting. So going to an event is good, but the impact is generally limited.
Mm.
Going through a process will have a bigger impact on us. So we continue reading books on leadership, we continue relating with other leaders, we continue. And I will say, not every pastor, if you think of a pastoral leader, like I said, wants to learn and wants to grow. You know, I know I've got people that I know down where we live, and this guy is incredibly insecure, incredibly threatened, doesn't want to grow, because anyone he talks to is going to steal his church from him. So he has isolated himself. But the sad part is, all his leaders who are under him all want to grow. So you can see a conflict coming at some point. The senior leader doesn't want to, incredibly insecure, doesn't want to grow at all, doesn't want to, because he thinks he's made it. But all his leaders are growing. At some point, that's going to be one cork blown out of a bottle. Oh, Pastor Wallace. So what we need to do is be committed to lifelong learning as a leader. Yeah, lifelong learning as a leader. When I went into bookshops at the age of 18 as a young Christian boy, I look back and it never dawned on me all those years ago, but what book did I pick up? Books on leadership. It amazed. I didn't pick books on anything else. I've got all these books on a bookshelf. I've still got by Zig Ziglar, all these stuff. And I'm thinking, Frank Damazio, all these leaders. I'm thinking, when I was 18, it was 32 years ago, I was still picking books off the shelf about leadership. And that's what I've sown into my life, because when the leader improves, the church improves. Yes?
Yes.
Think of a boxing champion. You heard of Anthony Joshua? Surely you've heard of Anthony Joshua. Yeah? And you've heard of Tyson Fury? The big, he just looks like some overweight guy, doesn't he really? Tyson Fury, the other boxer, the English boxer, the white guy, Anthony Joshua, and then there's all these, Daytona Wild, there's all these other guys. I like boxing. But when a boxer turns up in a ring, yeah, when a boxer turns up in the ring, does that make him a champion?
No.
What made him a champion?
The training. The training.
The training that nobody saw made him the champion.
Yeah.
When he turned in the ring, all you saw was the evidence of his training. So when you as a leader are put in a place where your leadership skill is called upon, that's when you'll be exposed. Do you know how to deal with this difficulty, or are you clueless? You know, Anthony Joshua will train and no one knows what he does apart from the few that he's with. He's in a circle. So he'll train and he'll train and he'll train, and then he'll get in the boxing ring to fight somebody. At that point, we'll see whether his training was good enough, whether he wins, whether he's able to compete. But as a leader, we don't want to be in a place where we get knocked down by the situation we're in because we are underprepared. Because all our growth and all our preparation is done in secret, when nobody will see, nobody will know how good you are. But all that preparation will do what? It prepares you. It prepares you, if I can say, for that boxing match. Yeah, think of Joseph. Yeah, we all know about Joseph. We all know Joseph's story. I would say he was a cocky teenager. He had a dream from God about what his future was going to be. Yeah? All that preparation that he went through was generally unseen by most people. Until that day came when he was able to shine, if I can use those words. He was able to be under Pharaoh, in charge. That preparation would be exposed at that point if Joseph was not ready to lead. Because he wouldn't have a clue what he was doing.
Yeah.
Then he'd get into trouble. So his preparation, his process was done over many, many years. Yeah? What we do as leaders, we prepare ourselves. until that opportunity comes where we are called upon to lead. But most people don't want to go through that process. Most people just want to jump in and be the leader and be on TV and be famous and be popular and all those things that pastors seem to want, a lot of pastors want these days. But they don't want to go through the preparation and the process that nobody sees. Think about, I'm sure you've seen this, think of the iceberg. Yeah? We see the iceberg above the water and we think, wow, that's big. How big is the iceberg under the water that we don't see? The foundation to what is above the water, massive. David Aloki, that pastor I mentioned, is a structural engineer. I asked him this question. There's the tallest building in, is it Dubai, which is 800 meters high. He told me what the name of it was, can't remember. 800 meters high. And he said to me, how big or how deep is the foundation for that think of 800 meters, that's nearly a kilometre. That's a long way, that's not just from here to Tesco. That's from here to Manchester. You know what I mean? It's massive. How big is the foundation for that 800 metre building? Just under 200 metres in the ground. That's a massive building. Most of our buildings aren't even 200 metres high. And the foundation of that building had to be 200 metres into the earth before they could even build the structure. The process that building went through for us to see the 800 metre structure was immense, hidden underground. We as leaders, leadership is a process that we've got to stay on the journey. Yeah, continue working through the process. So what we do daily has a big effect on our life. As I say, the secret to our success is determined by our daily agenda. So my question, I'm going to ask you these things. What is your daily agenda? What do you daily? What do you do daily? Because every day is an opportunity to make a masterpiece of our life. So what is our daily discipline? What do we do every day? So here's the question for you to answer like we did before. What do you do daily to develop yourself as a leader? What do you do daily to develop yourself as a leader? Anyone got any answers for me? What do you do daily to develop yourself as a leader? Go on, Michael, I'll give you the example.
Yeah, for me, I read.
You read?
Yeah, so my routine is normally I'll read something academic before I go to sleep in the night. Maybe I'll spend a few hours doing that. Then the following morning I'll spend time to read, to invest into my inner man, and also read other things that have to do with probably a particular thing I'm focusing on at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's how my structure is.
Good. So you spend a lot of time reading. Anybody else? I don't know your name, Pastor, but
Joseph.
Joseph, okay.
Yeah.
No, I know your name, you're marked. I'll pick on you all the time. Okay, Joseph, what do you do?
Normally, I would listen to motivational videos on YouTube.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, and think about it more like meditating, as it were.
Yeah.
Yeah, and pick specific maybe scriptures. You know, that's one of them anyway.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Anybody else want to contribute? Is it Prudence? Is that your name? No? Yes.
I'm trying to hide. I'm trying to hide.
I know your name. Oh, good guess, wasn't it? I've got a good memory, haven't I? You're a nurse.
Yes, I am.
See, I've got a good memory, haven't I?
Okay.
What do you do? Go on, you can answer first, then I'll come back to you.
All right.
Put you on the spot, somewhere.
You need
What
to
do you-
learn from those that are successful than you.
Yes. So what do we do daily? What do you do daily? Do we do anything? Prudence?
Not much at the moment.
No, hey, honesty
I'm trying. The best policy.
is excellent. I'd rather you say nothing than to make something up.
I read, but I need to read more. I read my Bible, but
Yes.
you know, it should be a daily bread. And I like to listen
have we all got phones?
Yes.
So I'll give you something which is really good that I do in my car, and I can show you. Get the app for podcasts. There are thousands of podcasts out there. So I'm listening to, if you heard of Andy Stanley from Atlanta in America, Charles Stanley's son. I listen to him. I listen to John Maxwell. John Maxwell got his own podcast that he comes and does teaching. Every day there's a new podcast added. I listen to the Rayner Leadership podcast. So there's all sorts of podcasts out there when you're driving. No, I do listen to Radio West Midlands, would be the same as Radio Sheffield, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Sheffield is the best.
But I do listen to the radio. But sometimes I'm just driving, I think, what a lot of rubbish, man.
Yeah.
And then you just, one touch of your phone comes through the speakers. I've got a 20-minute journey. The podcast is probably only 20 minutes or less. So you're listening to that. How to build a team, how to grow as a leader. These tools are there and they're free. What best to do, if you sat on the bus or a train, or you're walking to work, put your earphones in. We all do it, earphones in. Instead of listening to Beyonce or something, just sit onto a podcast, and you've got that, and you're learning. And it's a motivation, but it's something for us to learn. Some people don't like reading as much. So, I'm not going to shoot you if you don't read an entire book in a day. So, listen to these podcasts instead and learn. That's an alternative way of doing it. If you've got time to read, I used to catch the train to Birmingham every day. I'd sit there and have a half an hour journey there, half an hour journey back. I could devour books every week. Yeah? I would sit there with my little cassette player, Walkman, do you remember those things we used to have? And I've been listening to sermons on the way to work. That's what I was always doing. Always. My dad thought I was crackers. Bless him. That's what I did. So that's something we can do daily. Now, second question for you. And this will be one for you, Prudence, but I won't pick on you again.
All right.
What can we start to do daily to develop ourselves as a leader that we don't do already? What can we start to do? And then the next question, because they come together, is what do we need to stop doing on a daily basis that is holding you back from being the leader you want to be? So what do you need to start doing?
I'll start doing what you've just told us now.
Yeah.
Which is important for leadership skills. And then I think I will stop most of these WhatsApp reading WhatsApp group messages that are irrelevant sometimes.
Don't they know you? I want someone to invent how you can still be part of a WhatsApp group so that people don't get offended that you've left. But a way that you can mute it so you don't hear when they arrive. But I mean mute it so that the message doesn't even appear. So you don't ever get a message from them, but you're still part of the group. Because I would love to know how to do that, because those WhatsApp groups really get on my nerves. Ping, 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 ping. And you always want to look because you're curious, don't you think?
Yeah.
Oh, what's that? And then you think, load of rubbish. Bing, yeah.
I just want to contribute.
Of course. Welcome.
Thank you. The first question, and just made the two look at me. As leaders, in a setting of Christian setting, we must consider ourselves called to be leaders, rather than just anybody's whims has brought us into leadership. So, the first day of the morning, what I do is I spend time to pray. And that is the example of Jesus. And that is the example of David. David said, well, early in the morning will I seek thee. Jesus said, well before the morning he departed to a solitary place. So that's what we normally call the quiet time. And this has been the Christian practice for years, since I became a Christian, about 46 years. So this is what we're taught. And that has built a character into my life. So as a leader, a pastor, I begin to pray. At times, I do not have time to pray much. But at least about 45 minutes prayer is okay. 30 minutes prayer. And that actually puts you in a shape. I mean, when I talk of prayer, talking to God and listening to God. So that actually puts you in your position, in the seat that you have been called into. And that at that point, if you hear from God, that is, of course, you may